Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the idea of reading the Bible or just don't know where to start? Well, you're not alone. The Bible is unlike any other book. And while you can obviously jump right in, sometimes it can feel overwhelming or confusing. And then you might just give up. The Bible itself contains so much history, poetry, practical wisdom, predictions of the future, and more. Beyond that, reading the Bible can actually provide you with a sense of peace, purpose, and connection. I recently finished reading it from cover to cover for the first time, and now I want to share some of the insights I wish I had when I began to make it more helpful and even more enjoyable. Whether you're reading it for spiritual growth, bit of curiosity, or just trying to understand it better, I want to help you find a way that works for you and one that you'll actually enjoy. Here's my best tips on how to make the experience of reading the Bible something you actually truly connect with. If you're looking to start reading the Bible or get more consistent at it, there's two things you can do that to significantly increase your chances of that. One, get the format right, and two, get the right translation for you. When I say format, it's really the medium that you're going to consume the Bible in. You're going to read it through a book, you're going to listen to it on a podcast, or watch it on a video. I decided on the format that was best going to fit in with my own life, and that was listening to it via a podcast or audio version. Specifically, it was the Bible in a Year podcast by Ascension. This provided me the opportunity to listen to 365 episodes of the Bible. Now, I wasn't able to do one a day, but I found a rhythm where I was able to do between 3 and 5 episodes a week and listen to the word that way. For me, listening to a podcast version of it was making it a lot more accessible to me in my everyday life because I had a lot of time when I was sitting still or walking around the house doing things, and I could just listen to the audio version as well. On top of format, it's also good to get the right translation that suits you. And by translation, I mean whether it's King James Version, the New International Version, the Catholic edition, the Message. There's all different varieties available these days. The version you might go for also might play into the format that you have as well. If you're looking to read the Bible in a book, you actually might want to get a version that's more readable or more suited for readability. And then if you're listening, it might be more tailored to a shorter, more concise version, but that's all up to you. A great way to understand which version of the Bible is great for you is to get the same passage and then compare it on different versions to see which connects with you the most. That way, you're giving yourself the best chance to stick with and engage with the Bible. Getting the format and the version of the Bible more suited to your situation, your lifestyle, will give you a great chance to be more consistent with reading the Bible. It will just make it a lot more enjoyable. And if you can fit it in with your everyday regular life already, you'll find that you can actually sustain a reading habit. The Bible isn't just one big book. It's a library of different books covering a number of different genres like history, poetry, prophecy, romance, even wartime accounts, and it's all written by a number of different authors over a span of thousands of years. This means you're really reading a collection of stories and books rather than a single continuous story. It's also helpful to remember that each book has its own context and purpose. For instance, Proverbs is filled with practical sayings and wisdom meant to guide you through everyday life, while Psalms is more poetic and emotional and are meant to comfort and inspire you. Recognizing the variety and range of information in the Bible made it a bit easier to stay patient and keep going. The genre or the theme can change drastically from one section or book or chapter to the next. And so while some areas can be a bit repetitive or dry or heavy, it was good to know that you're only a chapter or book away for the tempo or the scenario or the narrative to be changing. The Bible contains a mix of beautiful, uplifting stories alongside challenging and even uncomfortable ones. Despite the book being written thousands of years ago, it's filled with themes that still resonate today, like resilience, kindness, and overcoming fear. A lot of people back in that day had fear, doubt, anxiety, longing for a better human experience. They were even doubtful of God. Even the main prominent characters in the Bible all had trials and tribulations. You had Job, who was faced with suffering but held on to faith. David, who was anointed the king but was struggling with sin and feelings of unworthiness. Even Peter, one of Jesus' disciples, was denied him because of fear of what other people thought. So there's so much relatability there. And I think that's why people love reading the Bible and continue to today, because it's very evergreen, or it transcends time and it's applicable to everyday life. So as you read, have a think about how stories within the Bible might relate back to you. Yes, the tools, the clothes, the way the food they eat might be all different, but the love, the kindness, the fear are all applicable to our daily lives in the modern era. The Bible stories cover so many years and generations. You can see how it also reflects the evolution of people in the society and culture over time. Reading through the book in chronological order, I found that life was a lot rougher and more brutal in the early world compared to Jesus's days, where society was a lot more structured and people were a lot more compassionate. For example, the concept of the church doesn't exist in the early world, but gradually forms as the Bible progresses, and it highlights the development of the community and the worship practices. There's a shift in the way language is used as well, in the form of, for example, early days it was an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, but then as we evolve into the New Testament, it's love your neighbor as yourself kind of language. As I read and saw that things were progressing and evolving throughout the Bible, it let me go of a bit of pressure to understand every single line and take it so literally. This helped me appreciate the Bible more because I didn't see it as a rigid rule book, but something that I can interpret and understand in my own way as I read it. While there's a lot of individual stories and characters and things like that, I did start to identify a number of bigger piece type ideas and themes. And there was things that kept resurfacing, like kindness, justice, peace, forgiveness, self-improvement. And it gave me a lot of confidence when I was reading the Bible, because rather than fixating on every word or every line, I could look at and consider just the big picture themes that were trying to be told. And these were ones that were very timeless as well, because they could guide our daily lives. For example, there were sections around what goes inside the church, what material it's made from, how big the wood needs to be, and so forth like that. And so while at the time that was applicable for those in that world, for us it was, if we think big picture, it's more how do we honor God? How do we worship God? What's appropriate for Him? And so if we try and build that perspective of things are bigger, not too ritual again, then you can get a lot more understanding of what it's trying to tell you in that situation. The Bible, I think, is less about demanding blind acceptance and more about understanding the perspective it offers. Curiosity is the key here. As you read, ask yourself questions, ponder meaning, reflect on how passages might apply to your own life. Even if you find a passage confusing or irrelevant at first, you might find value in it later as your perspective and your understanding progresses. This approach made the Bible more than just an ancient text for me. It became a living document with wisdom that continues to grow and change with me. The Bible is not meant to be just read, it's meant to be lived. It's easy to read the words, be kind and not yet in agreement, but it's far more transformative to consciously practice kindness in your daily actions. Through that, one of the most powerful things I did during my journey was taking notes. Almost every day, I would jot down themes, questions, and lessons. And this simple thing just turned reading from a passive activity into something active and engaging, because I could immediately apply what I was reading to my everyday life or situation. It was actually quite funny how some days of reading or listening to the Bible, I could immediately find words in the books that would apply to my situation. You might be having a bad day or dealing with someone difficult or not knowing how to deal with a situation, and you might go through a word or a note back in your readings and go, okay, this gives me a bit new perspective on how to deal with that, which was, quite a surprise, actually. The Bible isn't meant to be really a one and done type read where you read it once and move on to the next thing. It's meant to be something where you reflect and act on what you read, and you can go back and do it again and again. Another thing I found interesting is that you don't need to become a world changer or a complete superhero to act and engage with the word. It's just little changes that you can make, like building peace at home or love with your family. Those are small little things that you can do immediately without completely uplifting your life. So small tweaks are something that you can get out of through the words of the Bible. Parts of the Bible can be tough. You've got strict rules, violent events, ideas or cultural practices that don't align with today's values. When you first read it, it can be discouraging. There's a section Judges where there's so much violence and chaos. It's like, just don't get through Game of Thrones, really. One thing I kept reminding myself was that it's okay not to get it all in once, or no, even at all. Some passages, some areas of the Bible just won't stand out to you or won't be as memorable as others. You're also not in a race to get it done quickly. There's nothing in the Bible either that says you have to read it once a year, every year, for example. Personally, it took me 20 months to get through listening to the Bible in 365 episodes. It was just something that I wanted to find a rhythm where I was able to listen to the Bible on a regular basis as opposed to get it done by a certain day. Read the Bible can be a deeply personal journey. For me, each day brought different stories, teachings, challenges, pressures. Look, not everything clicked at once, but that was okay. I got a bit more understanding of my place in the world, a bit more comfort in the purpose in the face of life's unpredictability, and it shaped my views on everything from relationships to daily challenges, encouraging a thoughtful approach to faith and life. If you're still watching and enjoyed it, give me a comment on what you think are some of the tips that I might have missed or how your own journey of reading the Bible is going. All the best.